here. Welcome back to Handmade Not Hallmark. Today I've got this fun patriotic style card featuring some really great dies from Honeybee. This is the CONEFLOWER die. I really love this. The last time I used this, I used solid cardstock, and this time I'm going to use white cardstock and ink blend. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Like I mentioned, I'm using the Lovely Layers CONEFLOWER dies from Honeybee, as well as the soft plaid background from Simon Says Stamp. I really love this die set. I love all of the Lovely Layers, but this one in particular I think is really fun because CONEFLOWERs come in all sorts of colors, and I was kind of in a patriotic red, white, and blue mood. We recently just had the U.S. holiday of Memorial Day. It's a U.S. holiday in remembrance of fallen troops and loved ones who have passed on. So I was kind of in a red, white, and blue mood, and I really thought that these CONEFLOWERs would be a good way to kind of showcase red, white, and blue, and to show that you can ink blend to create some really pretty effects with some shading. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to stamp my background. I kind of got confused with my background stamp. It's been a minute since I've used one, and I've got some craft cardstock here, and I'm going to stamp this up with some clear embossing ink because I want to do some embossing. I want to do some white embossing. This is how I kind of brought the white in. This doesn't necessarily have to be a patriotic card. I was just in a red, white, and blue mood. This is a thank you card that can be given to anyone for any occasion. I was just in a mood to do red, white, and blue. So this is where I'm putting in my white. I really love this background stamp. It is so versatile. It can be used for anything, and I think it looks really great on top of this craft cardstock, especially with the bright white. It kind of reminds me of like a tablecloth. It's picnic season. Things have, the temperatures warmed up, and I really felt like this reminded me of like a tablecloth at a picnic. So I really think it's a fun background stamp. I'm going to be using some alabaster white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe to coat this background. Again, you could do this with, just a regular stamping. You could use pigment ink. You could use a craft color ink, anything like that. I really like the look of this embossing powder on here. I think it is super sharp. And again, you could use it for any season whatsoever. I was going to try to hold on to it with my tweezers, but there's not really a whole lot of space to hold on to this. So I very carefully held it with my hands. I was very aware and conscious of where the heat was, so I didn't burn my hands at all. And I love watching embossing powder melt. I think everybody feels the same way. It is magical seeing that powder melt and turn into something shiny and smooth. So again, just heating this up, being very conscious of where the heat was so I don't burn myself. And again, I love how this looks on the craft. Once I had that all melted and set off to the side and cleaned up my space, I was ready to do my ink blending. I am using my Waffle Flower stencil mat here, and I pre-cut all of my dies using some Bristol Smooth cardstock. This is my preferred cardstock when I'm doing ink blending, and I'm starting out with Faded Jeans. I've had this color for quite a while, and I haven't used it yet. I felt like it was a really nice, deep, rich blue, very blue in nature, unlike Chipped Sapphire, which has more of a purple undertone. This one was very true to the color of blue. So the first one I ink blended nice and dark all over, and then the second portion to the die, I kind of lightened my hand a little bit towards the end because I kind of wanted it to fade from like white to dark blue. That's kind of what I had in my mind. And I also took some Salty Ocean and ink blended the ends of the florals there. So I'm kind of going from a dark blue to a light blue and really lightening my hand as I get further and further into the die cuts so that I have kind of that white transition from the center of the flowers outward. Again, these are beautiful dies. I love all of their Lovely Layers die sets. I am itching to get my hands on the Pretty Peony ones. This one is still one of my favorites. I think my next card, I am going to try to turn these into Black Eyed Susans. They are my absolute favorite flower or wildflower, but I can't grow them. I can grow other flowers, but I can't grow Black Eyed Susans for some reason. But anyway, continuing on with these florals here. Next, I'm moving on to my next one, which is going to be a red floral. I'm using Fired Brick and Candied Apple. Again, starting with a nice heavy layer of the darker color and working my way lighter. These two colors are pretty close in tone. Just using a lighter hand gets you that variation. If I was going to do this particular color combination again, maybe I would use a darker red, maybe something more along the lines of aged mahogany. I think would look really, really nice as well. So again, the same process as I did with the blue one. I'm kind of starting with the darkers and moving lighter and lightening my hand so I have that nice bright white area towards the center of the flower. And I love these waffle flower blending brushes, excuse me. They're some of my absolute favorite. I think they blend beautifully. It was because of these that I got a love of blending with oxides. At first when they came out, I didn't like them at all. But now that I've got some good blending brushes and I've been practicing quite a bit, I've really come to love them. And for the centers, I'm going to use mustard seed and fossilized amber. Again, these two colors are really, really close in tone. So if you wanted to have a really big difference between the two, I mean, there's not really a whole lot. They layer on top of each other. So you could just blend them both the same and there isn't really much of a difference. But if you wanted to add some more texture or depth to it, you could probably go in with maybe like a brown or something like that to kind of give that contrast and texture to the center of the flowers. But I really like the way that these turned out. Again, some of my favorite die cuts to work with. Once I had that all done, I cleaned up my workspace here and we're going to work on our greeting. This is the thank you die from Simon Says. I'll have the actual name and description down below. I'm just stacking up 2 layers of white cardstock. This is just some regular white cardstock scraps that I had laying around. And I'm also going to be using some glitter cardstock. I believe this one is from Simon. You could use any that you have on hand. I have quite a variety of glitter cardstock, so I'm not 100% sure where this one came from because it was in my scrap bin. So again, you could use any that you like. This is, again, one of my preferred ways to do die cuts is to stack them up on top of each other. I really like the dimension it gives and interest. So, and I love this glitter cardstock. It is just so shiny and glittery and it doesn't flake off, which is really great as well. Once I had those all stacked up together, I'm going to work on the vellum portion. So I think I mentioned this in a video a couple of weeks ago where I don't have like a Xyron sticker maker or sticky sheets or anything like that. I like to use my my glue stick from Simon to adhere my vellum together. I think it works perfectly. I haven't had any issues yet. You can't see any adhesive because it's a glue stick. You're covering the whole back of that vellum and it works perfectly. If you want to have it a little bit more secure, you could run it through your die cutting machine to press it all together. But I just use my hands and I press it down pretty firmly and it works out fantastic. I really love doing this. This has become a new favorite. It works really well on these smaller ones. I haven't tried it on anything larger, but I think it would have the same effect. So that's my little trick on adhering vellum together to get a nice thicker layer. So that if you want to layer it on top of something and you want to hide adhesive, this was pretty easy because the font was pretty thick. I was able to hide adhesive, but again, a nice trick to layer up some vellum. Once I had that all ready, we can start assembly of all of our elements. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble my florals here. And these are super easy. I messed up on this first one because it had been a minute since I had layered them up. I was trying to layer it up by the area where the center of the flower is. And you don't want to do that. You want to layer them up by the petals. So me putting this one together, it worked out. It came together, still looked very beautiful. But the second one is the correct way to layer this. And again, this was just me not paying attention. The 2 leaves there, you can see that they would layer on top of each other. But either way, it worked out fine. Get the center adhered there, and it is a nice bright center of a flower. I think that's where I might have gone in with maybe some brown to kind of tone it down just a little bit, but either way, still pretty. So again, on the red one here, you're going to see the proper way to put it together. I am lining up the petals. You can kind of see where the ones match up and where they layer together. And once you do it a couple of times, now again, it's been a while since I've layered these, so I kind of forgot how it went. But once you get it and you stack them up, they come together really easily. Again, getting this all layered up here. And get the center adhered to this one as well. I decided once I kind of had everything lined up that it looked kind of goofy without leaves. So my first thought was, oh, I'm not going to put any leaves on this. This is going to look fine without leaves. But then I was like, it looks kind of blank. Doesn't look right. So I decided to ink blend the leaves that come in the die set. I am going to be using a mowed lawn, and I think I used twisted citron. So after I get this panel adhered here with some liquid glue, you're going to see that I'm going to start some ink blending of the leaves. Now again, you could do this however you want. You could ink blend before, ink blend ever, whichever. I just decided kind of last minute that it looked weird without the green leaves, and I think the green leaves really kind of help the florals pop quite a bit. So once I'm done fussing and fiddling and deciding on what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and ink blend. So again, I'm using mowed lawn and chipped sapphire, not chipped sapphire, oh my goodness, my brain. I'm using mowed lawn and a twisted citron for my greens for my leaves, and I love these leaves. I love the veining on them. I think that's really, really cool detail, and I think it's another reason why I like these lovely layers is because there's like subtle detail in the embossing of these images that it just really makes them look like real florals, which is really fun. Once I had that all done, I can go ahead and assemble the actual card here. So I could have heat dried these, but I just wanted to get this card done because I was in a card mood. I was really pumping out the cards this week. We had a nice long weekend over Memorial Day. You know, we did the obligatory picnic with family, and then I came home and I was just in a mood to make things. So you're going to have quite a few cards coming your way here real soon. But I love the way that these turned out. I think they look really beautiful. So the blue one I adhered flat to the card base here with some liquid glue, and the red one I popped up on some foam tape just because I wanted it to kind of hover over that other one. This does add quite a bit of dimension to the card, so I would probably send this in a bubble mailer or hand deliver this particular card just because there's quite a bit of dimension with all of the layers on the florals, and I wouldn't want it to get crushed or damaged in the mail. So I would definitely send this in a bubble mailer or hand deliver it. Once I was happy with the placement of my leaves here, we can work on our sentiment. So since there's dimension, quite a bit of dimension on the floral there, I had to pop up my greeting as well. So I just took some thin foam strips. These are from Doris, and unfortunately they're not available anymore, but you can do the same effect with regular, you could do it with scrapbook adhesives, you could do it with any adhesives. I am just double stacking the adhesive so that I had the right dimension on this greeting because I didn't want it to get crushed or bent. So I went through and double stacked this foam tape to get my greeting popped up. So I'm going to fiddle here quite a bit with this until I get it quite right. And I love the dimension, and I love this nice thank you. It's nice plain script. And again, this card can be used for any occasion whatsoever. I'm so excited we're into June. The kids had their last day of school today. They were all very, very sad, especially my two older boys, because they are transitioning into middle school next year. And they were sad because they weren't going to get to see the teachers they've grown to love and the other students. And I was just, trying to be very encouraging and letting them know that going to a new school is going to be fun. You're going to meet new teachers and all sorts of things. So I said, let's get through the summer first, and then we'll worry about middle school. So they were really excited about that. Once I had that greeting on there, I decided to go in with a few finishing details. This card is beautiful on its own, but of course I have to add a little bit more sparkle. Now, because these are oxides, I have to be very careful with my glitter brush pen and not wipe away too much of the actual ink itself. So in between the different colors, I am kind of cleaning off my little glitter brush pen so I don't transfer any of that ink to anywhere that I don't want it. And I just love the way this looks. I did a card similar to this back in February, I think, and one of my children gave it to their teacher as a thank you card for being their teacher this year. The last thing that I'm going to add is some Nuvo crystal drops in pale gold. I really love the addition of Nuvo drops. I think they're a really nice embellishment, and I really think it rounds out the card. And then I'm going to tap it off onto a ink pad just to kind of flatten them out to make them look more like a stick-on embellishment and to kind of even them out and help out with the drawing. I really hope you enjoyed this card as much as I did. I loved creating these. I love playing with these dies, and I truly appreciate all of your support, all the likes, the subscriptions, and the thumbs up. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll catch you all on the next one. Bye!
On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.